Then we can talk about the meat and potatoes gameplay.
Yep.
Then attempts at themes.
Yes.
You know, and then lastly we can talk about whenever we get to, we can talk about feminism. Just all of feminism.
Folks, we got to talk about feminism.
Folks, this is the Citizen Game Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
video game feminism.
This is like a script. It's not a game script. It's a script.
Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you!
Because the most subtle nuances of emotions could be seen on screen. With the PlayStation 4, games have now finally reached that stage.
This is the Citizen Game Podcast, the podcast where we talk about video games trying to be movies. I am George, and I'm with my dear friend Ryan, and now I am recording on a microphone and not a shitty laptop microphone. And we're good to go. So, this is a first for us, as we're talking about a game that we set out to play just for this podcast instead of already completing it years ago and trying to half remember it.
In the case of Last of Us Part 2, like, year ago.
Yeah. Not that long ago.
Yes.
But we actually said, we're going to play this, and we probably otherwise wouldn't have.
No. And we probably wouldn't have even played it for this podcast if it wasn't free.
That as well.
Yeah.
Yes. On the one good thing about the Epic Game Store
is that it frequently just makes games free.
Yeah. Don't buy games on there. Just collect the free shit. So, as a free game, Ryan, give me your general thoughts of this.
It was worth the money. That was a joke. It was pretty good, I guess. It's like fun in a kind of very basic way. Which is kind of weird to say about a game we're talking about on this podcast, because these are all supposed to be, true art or whatever.
It's definitely part of the it's one of the earlier examples of, this is just how every mainstream video game is now. The sort of convergence of Arkham Asylum and Resident Evil and Gears of War and everything.
Like, it's got the whole like semi-open world thing,
but like not even.
Yeah, because there is optional content if you explore.
Did you do any of that? Any of like
I did a couple of the optional tombs.
I definitely wasn't the only person to say this, because you could read reviews at the time where people were like, "Oh, this is where like the puzzles are, like the tombs and stuff." I like.
Yeah, they're all optional.
I would have liked to have. I agree with a lot of those people. I would have liked to have more. There was like one in like the science facility where there's electrified water.
Yes, I did that one too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did that one because it's easy to accidentally go there instead of the main path.
Yeah, instead of the linear path.
But I was like, that shit's great.
Yeah,
you just,
it is.
You just, it's quiet, and you got your fucking quiet time, because this is before people really started to really have that quiet time,
Yeah, and the fact that it's all optional is, I think, part of that. Like, well, you can have your quiet time if you want it.
And not just your quiet time, but the parts where you maybe have to actually think for a second.
But if that shit's boring to you, you can just
move the fuck along.
Ahead. Yeah, you can just go straight ahead and shoot people.
In fact, press a button to tell you exactly to where to go.
Yeah.
So, did you ever get a chance to play a little bit of the original?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I did not.
That's all right. I played it, so you don't have to. And I think it's funny.
Insert a foreboding undercurrent with the Nostalgia Critic theme song here.
You got it right here. I think The most notable thing about the original game is that the first thing Lara Croft does is shoot dogs. I'm not even kidding. First cutscene, she gets taken to, well, some tomb, and then there's like wolves outside that she has to shoot with her pistols.
That is also the first thing you do in this game.
Yeah, which I thought that was great, continuing on the great tradition of dog killing in prestige video games.
Wolf killing.
Yeah, it's all part of the same family. It's also the first...
I mean, this wolf killing is closer to the dog killing in, like, Call of Duty.
Definitely.
Because we're not feeling bad. We don't feel bad.
No, because they're ready to
they're wild animals that are going to kill you.
Fucking eat you.
It's not like, it's not Last of Us 2 where you pet the dog that you already killed.
So... Of course, the first action or the first combat you do in those games, the old Tomb Raider that is shoot a dog. So you get to, they don't just save it for the cutscenes. But Tomb Raider, it's you jump on shit and you solve puzzles. It's a pretty low key game compared to what we have now. It's not combat focused. It's about navigation. The jumping is actually difficult because you have to actually think about... You have to hold a button to reach your arms out to grab onto something.
That's ancient.
It's PS1 shit, you know? It's tank controls. It's not exactly good, but, you know...
So, if we're assembling all the influences that went into make Tomb Raider 2013, that's got to be number one, is the original, obviously. And then you bringing up that made me think of what's the obvious number two, which is Uncharted.
Yeah, because so the important thing to bring up is the last game in the series before it was rebooted, I believe, was Tomb Raider Underworld. But, there was an Xbox 360 game. And there was a few, it's basically the same as the originals. Like, there's no tank controls. Everything's a little bit smoother, but it's still, like, lock-on combat. And all this to just say that you could tell that, oh, this shit doesn't fly anymore after Uncharted came out. Because Underworld or something came out, like, 2008, like a year after Uncharted. And it's like, yeah, this has to forget about all the surface level, like, we're rewriting the story and everything, just mechanics.
This gameplay, yeah, because you play 2013 and it feels like Uncharted. You've got, she automatically grabs ledges. There's even a little something that they cribbed for Uncharted 4, which is having soft pieces of rock and jamming tools into it, which Uncharted 4 borrows from this game.
I think didn't this game do sliding on your ass first? Like because Uncharted 4 you have like the rocks that you have to.
Do you do that in older Uncharted games?
I don't think you do. I think Uncharted 4 owes that to this too. But this one's like way fucking crazier because you're like, oh shit, I got a shotgun, 5 fucking planks of wood, or I get a spike ran through my neck, you know?
That's another thing. That is a thing of it. So, this game's death animations are fucking brutal.
Which was definitely a noted thing at the time. Going to Zero Punctuation, he was like, this seems fetishistic, you know? It seems like someone's getting off to this.
Right, because you compare it to, like, Uncharted's death animations, right? And it's just Nathan just falls off something, and then he ragdolls, and someone says, Nathan!
Well, shit, and compare it to The Last of Us, which are brutal, but, you have, like, 1 second of, like, horrifyingness, and then it cuts.
Yeah, where you have 1 second where you get your throat ripped out, or your skull crushed, or you get shot in the head, and then it's over. But this one, it's like a few seconds of, like, lingering on it.
This was 2012, which means that we were basically little baby children when it came out. And I remember, like, as a kid going on YouTube, it's like, I want to see the crazy shit M-rated games are doing. So I'm, like, looking at Dead Space 2 death compilations. And like the next recommended thing is like Tomb Raider ones, and that's kind of weird for like a horror game and this game, which is it's got like horror elements, but I mean it is what it is. It just seems a little fucked up for the tone.
Yeah, I mean I wasn't doing that in 2012. I was reading Halo novels.
That's what I should have been doing. So, as long as we're talking about like general stuff, I absolutely enjoyed playing this game more than the first 3 Uncharted games.
That's interesting. Because obviously I first played the first 3 Uncharted games in like 2011. Or I played the first one like 2011. So I obviously don't... No, I played it later. But whatever, I played it years ago when I was much younger. So I don't really have as good a judge of that. To me, they just kind of felt the same.
All right, so I'm not saying that it's like so much better. There's just a few key things I like, which is I like the automatic cover system. I wish more third-person shooters would, don't fuck around with like gluing me to the wall. I like that you just stand by cover and you take cover, and
See,
you
I actually
automatically
don't like
pop
that.
up. You don't
I
like
actually
that?
prefer having a button to get in and out of cover.
Okay, well, I like that because I felt like you were also just moving around a lot more in this game, and there's a bit more encouragement to go in and do some shotgunning and melee, like to get out of cover.
The melee definitely feels better than Uncharted.
I like the shit where you can throw dirt in people's eyes, and it's not quite amazing because you're still gonna get killed if you're like running out of cover, so you still have to stop and pop, but there's just a little bit more, the fact that there's boss fights where you have to dodge blows and shotgun people. I like the fact that you just have 4 guns that you switch between at all times. You always got a shotgun, assault rifle, and you're switching off between them. The stealth is... it works, but it's kind of like completely unnecessary for the most part.
Yeah, there's like 1 or 2 forced stealth sections, but other than that, I just kind of ignored it.
Yeah, I tried it, but every time I was like, every time I get caught, I can just fight these guys, which is a symptom of the every game, where they don't want to make. It's like if you make stealth like somewhat mandatory, you risk the chance of alienating your target demo, I guess.
Right. But speaking of the every game, that brings us to a major element that is not in Uncharted at all, which is the RPG elements.
The fucking RPG elements, yeah.
There is an upgrade system for both Lara's abilities, and your weapons. So throughout the game, you're always scavenging for I think it's called salvage, right?
Right.
And killing enemies, and especially killing them in certain cool ways, gets you experience points. So you have both an equipment system and an ability system. And you just sort of do it at various... you upgrade at various campfires throughout the game. What did you think of that?
What is there to fucking say? Like,
they're just
you
there.
don't think they're there, and you could easily just have a game where you have everything from the start, and I mean, yeah.
Or you just find better... Like, Uncharted does it where you just, like, later in the game, because Uncharted is completely linear, you just find better guns.
I think the stuff that works is the where it's more like that, where it's not it's more like Arkham Asylum, where now you have the thing that like lets you go up ropes like the other direction, which makes me this is one of those things where it's like I picture the game where the developers actually had faith in you, where maybe you get lost a little bit and you have to do some there's backtracking, but it's all completely guided.
That's the weird thing, is that like there's theoretically like an overworld you can explore in this game. Like there are certain campfires that are like teleport points, right?
Yeah.
But I never used them because the games, despite that, feels super linear. Like, there's always an objective you're going to. And so, like, using those teleport points and, like, doing the non-linear stuff always feels... Like, you compared it to Arkham Asylum. What this feels like to me is a weirdly half-assed and poorly done version of Arkham City.
Yeah?
Because Arkham City is a really good example of a mission where you, in Arkham City, at every time you always have a primary objective.
Right.
That you can go to advance the story. But as you're going to it, you will run into side quests. Because you have to move through the overworld.
Yeah, and you can go anywhere. This game is pretty tunnely, versus Arkham Asylum City. You're flying around. You can go anywhere at any point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you mean Tomb Raider's very tunnely, yeah. Because Arkham City, yeah, as soon as you complete the first mission, basically, you have the whole city. And yeah, you can go to the main objective, but you can also clearly go to other places and do other shit. And that's cool. Whereas, yeah, in this game, it feels like you have to stop doing the main mission and turn around.
And for what? Like,
and yeah,
to
do some more bonus tombs, I guess. I don't know. Like it's
to achievement hunt. I guess.
Whereas in Arkham City again, what year did Arkham City come out? Okay, 2011.
Yeah,
so
like a year before.
2 years before this game. So 2 years ago, Arkham City had this way better figured out because there is like a plot to the side quests.
Yeah, I remember a few of them.
Batman wants to do those side quests, and therefore a reason you want to do those side quests. Whereas with this one, it almost feels like a more... okay, I'm going to say ludonarrative dissonance. And I know that's not quite what it is, but it sort of is, right? Because you, the player... It's maybe not ludonarrative, it's a bit different than that, because it's not to do with the game's mechanics. But you, as a player, want to explore these little side tombs, right? To get achievements, to get treasure, and just for fun. Lara has no reason to do that. Lara is on a quest to save her friend from being sacrificed, and then she stops to do a puzzle dungeon.
To get
treasure and achievement? Like, it's very weird. Because it feels like doing the dungeons only makes sense because if Lara is a meat puppet, you, the player, are just playing. But if Lara is a character who has motivation that we're supposed to care about, which we are, then it makes no sense. It requires you to come out of the game and remember that you're just playing a video game. Whereas the plot of the game, the main storyline, really wants you to not do that and to care about Lara and the other characters.
Hey, you ever play Far Cry 3?
No.
You made me think about it because there's a lot of similarities between this and Far Cry 3 as well. And what happens in that game is that our protagonist, the journey that he goes on, is that he likes fucking around and doing, melee kills and stealth kills and shit. He starts, like, getting a taste for it. And he's got, like, a group of idiot friends that he has to do everything for. And, he's... There's a guess what I'm saying is, like, there's a motivation for the character in that to go around and fuck around while his friends want to be rescued, because that's actually like a plot beat in the game. Versus, like, Lara, she cares about her fucking dumbass friends.
Yeah, she cares, and we're supposed to view this as a very serious survival situation, and then she fucks around in a tomb for treasure.
Yeah, so I guess now we should get into this game. I was talking about when we weren't recording earlier that the Prestige game, we have to make a third-person action game serious, more serious, and we're making this. Not only is this game more serious compared to the original games, we're trying to treat this shit not as like notably not Uncharted like, where it's a serious survival story. Yeah. Uncharted 4's answers to making stuff more serious is not like making the adventure more brutal or anything, but just having higher dramatic emotional stakes with character drama. And this game's answer is to make shit fucking hardcore and survival and
Well, in fairness to Uncharted, in that comparison, Uncharted 4 had 3 previous games to build on. Like, it was working with characters you knew. And
that's
it could
true.
play its tone, like, because you had these 3 games that aren't that serious, and Uncharted 4 can play off the contrast.
All this has is the contrast of the not same series of games,
Yes.
you know.
Games that are in a totally different series, from a totally different era of gaming, in a totally different narrative. Like, because Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 4 tell their story the same way, and are both the same basic type of game. Whereas comparing this to the earlier Tomb Raider series is not true at all.
But that's what also makes this game weird, because it's not just we're modernizing it, because essentially, and maybe this is the problem they found themselves in, is that Uncharted is modernized Tomb.
Everyone said that when Uncharted came out.
Yeah. Now
Like, everyone
Tomb
knows
Raider, if we did Tomb Raider just modernized, it would be Uncharted. So now we have to do something different. So she gets
and how
caught
do we
on an
differentiate
island.
ourselves? And the way they figured out was, what if we made it fucked up?
What if we made it hardcore?
Yeah. So because this game, rather, they're the same thing actually. This game is Batman Begins.
Yeah.
It is a superhero origin.
You are not
it is a gritty superhero origin story.
You are not the first one to
I'm sure I'm
notate
not.
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
this game was made a year after the Dark Knight series ended, and came out a year after the Dark Knight series ended, and the year Man of Steel premiered. So that cultural zeitgeist of retelling the origin of an iconic character, but warts and all, seeing the dirt under their fingernails.
But the weird thing is that Batman Begins has like all the major Batman, like he dresses up in a bat costume, he punches guys, the Scarecrow has scary juice,
and he wears the mask.
Yeah, where this game, she kind of raids a tomb, I guess, and
you can raid tombs if you want to.
At the end, she pulls 2 guns out.
Yes. That's what I mean. Because those 2 guns were given to her by her mentor. The 2 guns now have a backstory. That's what I mean when they say this is a superhero origin story.
I guess the weird thing is like, her, and they try and kind of put in that she obviously gives a shit about like the history and stuff. Well, it kind of works in the game because she knows stuff that helps her solve plot issues.
Yes.
But then again, I don't know enough about the older games to know how much Lara Croft was interested in, because I thought she was pretty mercenary. Like, I really don't know.
Into the history.
Yeah, but I could be completely wrong. There's like fucking 20 of those games, and I played an hour of the first one
of them.
So.
Yeah. But in this game, they kind of, and that's the thing of like another thing that any superhero origin story, especially when applied to a non-superhero character, is mythologize certain iconography. Like now the 2 guns are not just the weapons she uses. They have like an intense backstory of her mentor getting killed and giving them to her.
But you know why it's the 2 guns? Because,
Why?
well, there's nothing else. What is the other iconic part about Tomb Raider? Tits and ass. Like,
Yeah.
So all you have is the guns. You can't do
It's hard to mythologize tits and ass. Though you certainly could. So you've got that. And then you have this whole thing with her father and her like family legacy.
Yeah, Croft, Laura.
Yes. That to me feels super half-baked.
I would say most of that, a lot of the shit is half-baked, but like half-baked in a pretty standard video game way.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah, it's standard for a video game because you just get it referenced a bunch, but what exactly her deal with her parents is never really explained, other than the vague notion that they were adventurers too. It is certainly, like, compare that to the fucking endless flashback sequences in Uncharted 4, where we get whole sequences playing as a child Nathan finding out about his parents and having interactions with his brother. But you can't do that because you need action.
We don't know how to do that yet. No one.
Yes, we haven't figured out that you can have a whole sequence of a game where you're playing a child walking around a creepy old house and looking at shit and learning about your parents.
Yeah, people love it.
Yeah, you couldn't have an entire 20, 30-minute sequence of baby Lara Croft.
Just think about the boat. Think about, like, the opening, like, movie where the boat crashes.
Yeah.
If this game...
It's crazy short.
If this was made today, first of all, it wouldn't be like a movie file. You would walk around on the boat and talk to people.
Yeah, you would meet... you wouldn't be introduced to these characters as she finds them on the island, which is basically how it works here. You would take much more time setting up those relationships, especially with Sam, because that's going to be so important. Like, yeah, you would have a whole scene where you can go to each of their cabins and talk to them, and the stuff on the cabin walls characterizes them or whatever, right? And that would be, like, the first probably 10 minutes of the game.
I think they maybe shot themselves in the foot a little bit with their sort of half-baked open world stuff, because if you just went completely linear, something that you could do is have a companion with you. What does Naughty Dog do? They always have you with a buddy.
Yeah.
For the most part. And that's how a bunch of character building stuff is done.
Yeah, but this game, even with relationships where we are clearly supposed to care about it, is mostly Lara talking to herself.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you a single name of any of the characters except Ross.
Yes, he's awesome.
That, and I like, of course, like the drunken sailor,
Yeah.
Shout out to him, I guess.
Yeah, the guy who dies.
Yeah, again, it's like Far Cry 3, where all your buddies want to get off an island, but only you apparently can do anything.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess they're trying... I don't even remember. At one point, they're, like, working on a boat. And,
they're working on a boat, but they don't understand that there's magic. They're working on a boat, but they don't get that there's... So that's another thing that makes this different from Uncharted, is that there's magic.
That's not... but, like,
straight
Uncharted
up
has...
Magic. Uncharted has vaguely sci-fi stuff. It has zombies. It has juice that makes you immortal and blue. It does not have souls.
And, like, a god is real in this one. Like,
yeah,
some sort of
there
god
is a
real.
literal sun god. There is a soul transfer process where you can where a dead person can take over your body. Like, it is magic in a way that Uncharted never is, even in the early games where there's sci-fi stuff.
I did kind of appreciate, I guess, like, the trashy brutality of it all. Like, I told you I watched the Descent, which this game borrows, not, like, big stuff, but cues from, like, killing people with a pickaxe, and a few direct scenes, and also a woman going through a character arc by just getting the shit kicked out of her. But essentially, I like that aspect of, like, you're on a crazy island with magic, and you're stabbing people in the eye with pickaxes. Like, I like that this game was M-rated, right, to a certain extent. It was fun.
And the violence is like... So this game came out the same year as The Last of Us. And it is sort of the same thing of, like, we're going to try to take the violence... Well, it's trying to take the violence seriously. Or at least the violence that happens to you.
It does and it doesn't, though, because she has the same injury that Joel has, where she gets impaled by rebarb.
Right.
But that's such a weird thing to focus in on that, but that she's, like, fine.
Yeah, because that happens almost immediately, right? I think that might be the first thing that happens.
Yeah, it reopens once where she has to, like, cauterize it, but it's, like, not a big deal.
But it's really early in the game. I mean, I think that's just meant to establish the tone of the violence.
Yeah, and the tone is that you're just gonna see like a bunch of fucked up shit, but it really doesn't have any weight.
Yeah. And especially because the violence you dish out doesn't feel like it has weight.
No,
But
and you have stormtroopers.
In Last of Us, and especially in Last of Us 2, because they have obviously better graphics tech, there's a real visceral quality. Like when you shoot someone in the head, their head fucking explodes. And you even get the little commentary from Ellie in the first game, being like, "Holy shit, Joel," or whatever. But in this one, shooting people just feels like nothing.
And that's because you gotta shoot a lot of them. Like it would, because Last of Us it's Uncharted. It's not even though it has stealth, it's not a stealth scrappy. It's action.
Because Last of Us has the very limited resources thing it does, where you really feel like every shootout you don't want to have to shoot because you only have like
it's got automatic weapons.
Yeah, it's got automatic weapons, and you're going to be full up on ammo for most of the time. You're not like scrounging around for every bullet, like Last of Us. And
so, go ahead.
So what do you want to talk about now? Because I was just going to say something about how I feel like this just feels like the general move of reboots at the time. You know, Dark Knight series, Man of Steel. I mean, even so, people say the MCU is like the opposite of this or whatever. But like you look at like early MCU, especially Iron Man, they really want you to know how much sex Tony Stark has because they want it to feel. It's a desperation to feel adult.
Everybody forgot about.
Everybody forgets that Tony Stark like fucks in that movie.
Yeah, because everybody was like the first MCU sex scene with the Eternals. I'm like, I still remember
him like
Tony Stark
silhouetted under the sheets in like the first 5 minutes of that movie.
Yeah, because I remember my parents covering my eyes in the theater.
Right,
because
it's like they really don't want to be movies franchises in that era really don't want to be thought of as for kids, and I think this is part of it. They really want to convince you that they're for adults.
That's 100% true, and basically what I want to move to talk about is we have an arc, and that is
becoming a survivor.
That's kind of that's completed in like the first act of the game, which I thought. See, I knew there's a part where she climbs on a radio tower. I always thought that was like at the end or something. I'm like, no, that's that's
she gets
pretty
rescued and that's it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is like early on, and she's already become like a survivor, and there's that moment where she's shooting a bunch of dudes. It's actually pretty fun, but she's like,
"Run, you bastards! I'm coming for you all!"
And where she learns how to be a cool person that kills people. And at 100% doesn't work for the same reason that Far Cry did the exact same thing, Far Cry 3, where you have a part where Jason feels bad about killing a dude, but then you're expected to go on ahead and do the meat and potatoes gameplay way too quickly. It's like you can't do that arc because you have to get down to killing guys.
Right.
You can't wait for the
have it be like if this were a movie, maybe it would be more appropriate to have it be until halfway through when she kills someone.
I think it's important to mention that this was a movie. There was a Tomb Raider movie that not the Angelina Jolie one,
and not the one that eventually got made later.
No, that is the one that like the one where it was a Tomb Raider movie, but it was more based off of this Tomb Raider.
Right.
Where she wears a blue tank top and has a bow and arrow.
But I have not seen that movie.
I saw like 20 minutes of it, and it starts off with her like being in like a bike race, like a bicycle race with some people. That's
awesome.
It really wasn't because I changed the channel.
Regardless, hypothetically, if this were a movie, original movie, not even a Tomb Raider movie, I mean. You would say her killing someone for the first time shouldn't happen that early in the story. It should happen way later. But because you need to get to the gameplay where she's going to be killing literally hundreds of people, she has to become cool. She has to have her little freak out when she kills that Russian dude and then get over it.
Yeah, and it's like, it's this desire to write that type of story without
But
paying
still
it off
making
with
it a game.
any
Still making an action game.
Yeah, with not. So Zero Punctuation, I rewatched his review and he made a great point, which is in the original Deus Ex, if you don't put points into like shooting guns, you just suck at shooting guns. Like you just barely can do it. And this is like the whole theme with the game is they wrote the story and then you're squeezing in a generic action game into that story versus building. When I say, hey, let's make a game about surviving, what kind of mechanics do you come up with? You maybe think of like hunger.
You need to drink water.
Yeah, you think about like hunger. You think about
food.
maybe like shelter, warmth, temperature.
You need to build a fire. You need to get better clothes.
But no, that's all covered by the story. And so you don't have a disconnect, but it's just like the game is about shooting people in the face when the story wants to be about more
Survival.
than just that, which includes shooting people in the face, but also includes a lot of other stuff that wouldn't fit into this very narrow mold that they want to do, which they shouldn't have. If you're gonna do this shit, you just should have made her competent from the start. Like, don't even bother with this arc. But then, what else do you have? You know,
You need the arc because this is 2013.
It's the Dark Knight, or it's Batman Begins.
Yeah, you need an arc, and that also makes because like you have games like I don't know if this is true because I haven't played it, but from my understanding, Far Cry 3.
Yeah.
Or the Last of Us games, where the fact that the main character is weirdly okay with killing people is part of their character.
So Far Cry 3, it's a bit of both. Like he does start off like way too competent at guns for like being freaked out about it.
Because isn't he just a college kid?
Yeah, but the flavor text about him says that he's like an adrenaline junkie. That like, you know, he's like a trust fund adrenaline junkie. And so it's a little bit of both where, yeah, he's way too competent at guns to start with. But once you get going and he starts becoming unhinged, then the game starts to feel a little bit, it starts to congeal a little bit better.
Right. Because, like, you can make... Obviously, Last of Us does this. Where you can make the fact that they kill so many people part of what you're supposed to know about the character.
Or you can do the Uncharted thing where it's just
It's
treated
a joke.
as... Yeah, it's
Where
fine.
It's a fun action movie. But trying to take it seriously while also being a game where you casually kill hundreds of people.
But it's only taken seriously in the sense that, like, it's a hard thing to do. Like... Well, that is the thing. Is like she reckons once with like
the moral
like the
implications.
But I almost it's like is she really? It's not that like she felt bad. It's just like she had to kill someone. You know?
Yeah, that's
what am I
fucked up.
trying to say? Yeah,
She didn't feel bad for him because he was a huge piece of shit.
Yeah, which
we can discuss in the feminism section.
Yeah, the feminism section of our podcast.
Video game feminism!
Thank you.
I definitely enjoyed I enjoyed the game more as we finished that arc and okay, Lara Croft is just awesome now and we're just going on
and it's fun.
Yeah.
Killing is fun. Don't clip that out of context, please. But like the shooting, the gunplay in this game, it feels good. And the melee definitely feels better than Uncharted probably.
Yeah, I like the scramble button.
Yeah.
Instead of like a tactical roll.
Instead of a dodge roll, you just sort of panic run.
Yeah, I love that. That was great.
Yeah, that's good. Like the core gameplay is fun.
But man, there's not even that much climbing in this game, like relative to Uncharted even.
Yeah, relative to Uncharted. I mean, there's still a good amount.
I know, but it's like if you're doing Tomb Raider, like climbing is her fucking thing.
Yeah. But it's already Uncharted's thing.
Yeah, but again, it's like they do play around with different stuff. You could at least have like I don't know, like some more Prince of Persia shit. I haven't really played those, but I've seen enough of them where it's like, you could... Fuck, even like Jedi Fallen Order, like the platforming and that, like there's like fun shit. You swing from rope to rope in that game, like there's more you can do with climbing, and it would be great to play a version of this game. Well, shit, I hear that the later ones have a little bit of a slower pace.
I'm probably going to play those because I have them for free.
Yeah,
I might as well
give them a
just
shot.
kill time. Maybe they'll make me reevaluate the first one. I don't know.
Oh, the bad guy in this game says, think about how many people you've killed or something.
Oh, just like the other guy. Just like Lazarevich.
Yeah, and of course, and he's saying some speech. He at least tries to tie it back into the main theme, where it's like, we're survivors. That's what we're doing, and I think it's interesting. The bad guys in these games, just a bunch of dudes, just desperate dudes, who are just fine following this cult guy. It's whatever. It's kind of glossed over.
Yeah, it's like all these guys got stranded, and then they killed anyone who wouldn't join. And there's also evil Russians?
Sure.
Because Russians are maybe we're back to that now, to be topical, but Russians are like the ethnic villains you can still have in 2013.
I think they're probably more okay to be villains than not, in the span of the last, I don't know, 8
century
years or so. Yeah.
No, because we can go back to Russians, because there is some deep ingrained prejudice because of the Cold War, but it's not explicitly racist in the way that, say,
yeah, they're white people. It's
right
fine.
In the way that the sort of black and Hispanic primary villain group in Uncharted feels now.
Yeah.
So you can get away with that, and I mean, obviously, they're not all Russian. It's just all random people, but their leaders are the Russians.
You're killing big, smelly men, and you're Laura Croft. I like the little contraptions and weird shit that they built. I thought some of the art direction was kind of fun.
Yeah, where they've built up this whole society out of ship scrap, basically.
Yeah, it's neat.
Wrecked ships as the basis of their buildings. That's really cool, actually. Yeah, the villain's just kind of lame though. Main guy just sucks.
Yeah,
he just kind of sucks. All right, you want to talk about video game feminism?
Where do we... Should we just start at the moment? Because we already talked around it.
Well, let's talk about the build-up to the game.
Part of the reboot is that you can't... As just going on, it's part of this reboot is that you can't sell the game off of tits and ass and sex appeal.
Right. Yeah, that's not really something you can do as a mainstream American developer in 2013. This is, I believe, just pre-Gamergate and all that nonsense.
And it's part of the attempt to be serious.
Yes, because not only can you not have a game that's would appeal to a mass audience who aren't weird perverts sold on tits and ass, you definitely can't have a game with this tone sold on that.
But some of the shit the developers, I believe, is the executive producer and creative director. The stuff that they're saying is just pretty fucking weird, and basically speaks to it's exactly what you think it is. Where feminism is when a woman kills people with a bow and arrow, and survives getting stabbed with rebarb.
Yes.
Very video game feminism and action movie feminism. But basically, some of the weird shit was one of the guys said that the goal is to make you feel like you're trying to protect Laura as the player, which is a weird misunderstanding of player-character relationships.
Yeah, and maybe it betrays that they're still thinking of the default player as male.
Oh, definitely.
Because you in the original games you want to fuck Laura, right? That's their understanding. I haven't played those games. I don't know if that's true, but that's clearly the dynamic he's doing. And then so we're going to change that relationship so that in this game you want to protect Lara, and at no point do you want to be Lara, because that's usually the goal, or not want to be. You don't want to be Joel, but feel like you are. And he seems to be throwing that out. Is it prima facie, I think is the right Latin phrase for that? Before the fact. He seems to be throwing that out immediately. It's like, well, obviously they're not going to feel like they are Lara because they're all straight guys. We can make their relationship paternal instead of sexual.
But it's almost like, it's like, you know, the whole datification of gaming and everything, where it's like, but you play as Joel protecting Ellie, because that's how you form a video game relationship. You can't have that relationship with the player character. You're supposed to feel in tune with them because they're your window into the world, and
you feel like you are Joel.
Let me just read this fucking quote. Her skin is still bare on the arms, and there are going to be rips and tears on her clothes, but it won't be about revealing. It's a way of saying that through these tough situations, there is a beauty and vulnerability coming through. I think that is sexy in its own way.
This guy should be arrested.
But I think that paints the perfect picture of... I mean, you know, video
the weird
games are made by
being had before release.
Video games are made by tons of people. And this is just one guy, and like I said, I think it's the like executive producer or whatever. But it certainly puts you. It like when I read that, though, it's
the kind
like
of conversation being had in the media at the time.
Yeah, but when I read that, it is like, oh, that makes perfect sense, because I did get that weird feeling of like she looks like cute, if that makes sense. Like where they didn't want to make her sexy, but they wanted to still make her cute, which is like like it's hard to, it's all like the subtleties of design, just like the face. I mean, they say like how they make her face, like they make her like young, and that's just like shit that I won't say you never see that again, but certainly you can't even pretend to call that feminism anymore.
Yeah, compare her to like Ellie in Last of Us Part 2 to a degree, because like that game, you know, we say what you will about it, we certainly said, I don't know, that game has... were you the one who said that you love shots where it's the main character's back and it's all bruised and fucked up?
Yeah, so
that game isn't afraid to have that shot with Ellie. To have Ellie kind of look like shit, especially during the sort of last section of the game. Whereas this, Lara, like they even say in that, Lara always looks pretty.
Even when she gets all dirty.
Yeah, even when she gets dirty.
I mean, if you look at the link I said, that screenshot is perfect, where she, or you know, it's like a whatever promotional thing where she's got all these cuts and everything, but she still like has like the symmetrical perfection and like gloss and everything.
And the really nice hair.
The fucking hair,
really
which
nice
was,
hair.
if you remember, that was a graphics card selling point. Is like for the PC version of this was advanced hair physics. Which I remember not hearing about again until The Witcher 3 with Geralt's long and luscious hair.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's all the stuff that was happening around the release, the sort of conversations about video game feminism. But what about the actual game? What is video game feminism in video game? And I think there's a couple things. Because one thing that everyone talks about is so people called it at the time an attempted rape scene, which is the first time Lara kills someone. It's this big Russian dude, and he like corners her while she's hiding from the goons, and he's feeling her up. And then eventually they sort of start wrestling together on the ground. She grabs his gun and shoots him in the head, right? A fairly standard scene in an action movie, but it is also a quick time event, which means that you can fail it. And a lot of people, because that was shown, I believe, at E3. And a lot of people I remember seeing it like an Angry Joe video about this back when I still watched that. And the question was, and it's a fairly obvious and inevitable question, like, what happens if you fail?
And not only that, is you're probably likely to see it because it's actually a pretty quick prompt.
Yeah.
I did fail it. I knew it was
so
coming,
did I.
and I still failed it. Yeah.
So did I. But the question at the time was, what would happen? Like, did she get raped if you fail this quick time event? And that's it's interesting because that's a question that only exists in a video game. In the movie they were thinking of when designing this sequence, the heroine will always shoot him in the head before he does anything, because that's how the action movie works. the threat of sexual violence is to drive her to the point where she kills someone. But in this game, and the answer is, because we both failed it, is that he doesn't actually sexually assault her. He just bashes her head in. Or strangles her, depending on where you fail.
Because not only, like, you're just not going to do that.
You're not going to do that.
You're also not going to put in the work to do that.
But the language, the filmmaking language you were using until that point was communicating that his intent was to sexually assault her. That is what you want the viewer to think, right? But because this is a video game that has to have a fail state for your QuickTime event, you have to also wimp out of that.
And it's pretty clear that the devs they kind of were like going full force into this from like interviews where it's like, I'm trying to like search for a specific quote, but essentially, you know, he uses the word rape, like an attempted rape, and it's like, we're going for it. And then they later retract their statement, like, well, he was talking about out of his ass, and you know, very, very much like, we're gonna go for it, but we're not.
Right. Because if you did do that QuickTime event without ever failing it, that's what you would think was happening.
And now that we talked about it, it's like, you know, what is there to say? I mean, I think it's like, don't do it, because your game isn't that serious, you know?
This game is going to end with a big swirly energy thing sucking someone's soul out.
Like, you could imagine... I mean, well, shit. Compare it to Ellie and David in The Last of Us.
Right.
Shit. But I think they do the same thing, where Ellie dies if you fail... They do the same thing
in The Last of Us. I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure near the end of the fight, when he's got her pinned on the ground, there's definitely some implications to that scene.
Yeah, and I guess when you get, then maybe, you know, people didn't really talk, people talked about that, but, you know, the reality is, it's like, well, you're not going to show a sexual assault for failing a QuickTime event, so you're going to have the bad guy just kill her. And so I think, and that's not great either, but when you get down to it, it's like, well, that scene works because it's good. In this game, like you said, there's like the blue light in the sky type of story. There doesn't need to be a fucking rape attempt.
I mean, that does create the hilarious description of a character who is a cannibal, cult leader, pedophile. But... the scene works because, like, that is a tension that's been building the entire time we've met David.
The scene works because it's fucking good. Like,
yeah, it works because it's well done. Whereas this Russian character just fucking shows up, gets handsy, and then gets shot in the head.
And not to mention, this all ties back into, what is this for? It's so Laura can be a big girl who knows how to shoot people in the head.
Yeah, because Ellie's already killed people at that point. That's not the function David has in Last of Us. But here it is just a thing to make her able to kill people so that you can play the rest of the game. There's another sort of more abstract video game feminism thing in the game, it feels like.
Uh-huh.
So the main plot of this game is a rescue the princess story.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Yeah, I noticed that, how it's like, it is just giving her a princess, almost literally, because I think Sam is descended from like the royal family of this island. It's giving her a rescue the princess story. Which does some interesting... having your female main character have a rescue the princess story with another female character does some interesting things. Right?
How so?
Right. Well, like, that's usually a romantic story. The princess is generally... The princess is usually the female love interest of the male hero. Even if it just implicitly. That is the implicit relationship there. So doing that... But, because this game is from 2013, they're not actually going to do that. Like, have Laura be rescuing a female love interest. Because it's a mainstream video game from 2013, and come on, we weren't there yet.
I can't even remember, like, for as, like, sexualized as she is in the old games, I don't know if, like, she ever fucks. She definitely, like, seems like the type, like, like old Lara Croft is awesome because she is like a video game treasure hunting psychopath who doesn't give a fuck, and she does seem like the type of person that fucks, but
Right.
I don't know if that ever happens.
Right, and it doesn't happen in this game. Like, that's another reason why I don't really know if this was the subtext they were intentionally going for. Because it's not like Lara has another love interest in this game.
No.
So
She just got friends that she
Yeah.
gives a shit about, and we definitely don't.
yeah. But so I don't really know. Like, that decision feels so deliberate because it's Mario. It's a rescue the princess plot, but where the princess and the rescuer are both women, and I have no idea what they were trying to imply by doing that.
I don't think they're trying to apply anything. I think it
You
was
think they
just
bumbled
like
into it?
what I think was like, oh shit, we can have you rescue someone because it's not sexist because she ain't a dude. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
this is more feminism. It's
And
great.
any subtext that creates is totally not thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I might be giving them too much credit for thinking about this more than they did.
No, they absolutely. I think the base thought is just it's more feminism, and we can now do a rescue because
Right.
I mean, and she rescues all of her friends.
Right, but like the climax
Yeah.
and her entire driving of the last basically third of the game is rescuing Sam.
I mean, they should have made it romantic because it's like, oh, like maybe I would have given just a little
would've
bit
cared
more of a
more?
shit, just a little
Yeah.
bit, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe if we knew any of these characters before they got separated on the island. Like if we had that hypothetical walking, talking scene on the boat.
Ryan, it's a video game from 2013, and
So is The Last of Us.
but it was before, and
Right.
it's exactly what you can point to where it's like, when did everything converge? And
Right. Well, this is just before everything converges.
yeah.
Because The Last of Us is the point where it all comes together to create the modern story-based game. This is like just before that.
Yeah, and we just have and The Last of Us figures out the extra sauce of what if we actually like
Had
did a
character
good movie?
development.
Yeah.
What if, I mean, you said it best, where it's like, what if they were good movies? What if the movies in our game were actually good movies that had real characters?
Yeah.
Whereas this wants to be a serious movie, but it's not quite willing to go that far.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts on this?
No. No thoughts. Head empty.
It was all right.
It was a pretty good game.
I
That's all
was
I
like,
got.
I was sick from work, and all I did was play this, and it was a great game to play for. You know what? What I
was
could say
better-
about it?
What?
It was 9 hours, which I wouldn't think would be like an ask for like a AAA game, but that's hard to get now. Like a 9-hour
Yeah.
AAA big budget game.
You know what? It wasn't Kane and Lynch 2.
It wasn't Kane and Lynch 2.
Like, Kane and Lynch 2 gave me a new appreciation for games that are just competent and fun, but not
This
really
game fucking
doing anything
slaps.
special.
Compared to Kane and Lynch 2.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't make me want to throw up every time I look at the screen. Playing it doesn't feel like I'm not fighting the game to try to play it. So it's not put this on the box. Tomb Raider 2013. It's not Kane and Lynch 2.
And it is definitely more feminist.
Oh yeah.